From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Teens leading the charge against suicide.
My future goal is to open a counseling center for teens and young students.
Plus, grain bin or event center.
And this is just an ongoing testament to that beautification committee.
And tropical storm season is well underway. And good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Monday, September 19th. We are so glad that you are watching with us. You know, a pair of Korean War veterans are waking back up in Montana this morning following a really amazing trip to Washington, D.C., and the trip was organized in their honor. Our Q2's Haley Monaco shows us that special homecoming.
Sunday afternoon, 2 Korean War veterans returned home to Billings after a trip to Washington, D.C. The two lifelong friends said it was a trip of a lifetime. Family members gathered at Billings Logan International Airport, eagerly anticipating the arrival of Bill Dame, an Air Force vet, and Irving Scheit, a Marine vet, as they returned home from their honor flight trip. And when the two 87-year-olds came around the corner, they were surprised to see the crowd gathered for them at the bottom of the stairs.
I was just shocked because I wasn't expecting anything like this.
The only thing that I was a little bit suspicious when he told me, put your shirt back on.
The two were each accompanied on the weekend trip by their sons, Greg and John.
They must have done a good job because we got back.
The trip was organized by Honor Flight, a nonprofit organization dedicated to transporting as many U.S. military veterans as possible to see the memorials of wars they fought in, all at no cost to the vets. They all say they had a fantastic experience on the trip, touring monuments and meeting other veterans from across the country.
It's wonderful for me. I'll never experience this again. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't know it was this good.
Dame and Scheit both attended Custer High School. They knew their draft number was coming up, so a group from the high school decided to enlist.
If you enlist, you get to go where you want to go. So 6 of us went up to Billings, and we all enlisted.
Both men were very appreciative of the honor flight and the trip they just had.
I think they really showed their appreciation for us.
I just can't thank enough whoever it was that got us involved in it. And I'm just excited to find out who is going to be going next.
In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
All right, Miller's here with us because there's a lot happening with the weather.
Yep, got some changes. We're still in a warm up. We'll be warmer than average today. Some of us actually may try to hit 90, and then we got a big old cool down on the way. So above average today, and then the next couple of days we're going to be below average. Let's go ahead and crunch some numbers. Yesterday here in Billings, our high got up to 79, so above average. Overnight low of 52. Got windy, especially last night when those storms come ripping through. I was in bed about 9 o'clock last night. I was jolted out of bed. We had lightning right across the top of the near the house, and wow. So we did get a little bit of rain off of that. For the month, we're just over half an inch. For the year, we're over well over 12.5 inches. So for the month, we're still pacing behind. We don't have a lot of rain in the forecast, maybe Thursday for us, but for the year, we're still pretty good shape as we're pacing ahead. It's a beautiful start this morning in Billings. We don't have to worry about the smoke today, so that's good news. 55 right now, humidity at 74%. Winds out of the southwest at about 15 miles an hour. You see temperatures across the area, just a few here. Colstrip and Forsyth tag teaming at 55. Reed Point sitting at 50, as well as Harleton. Down in Gardner at 44. We've got Sheridan sitting at 56. Grable at 51. Highs today mainly in the 80s. Some areas they're trying to push near 90, and we do have a cold front that's going to be dropping through out ahead of that. Maybe to our north we could see some rain and some clouds. For us though, the big thing we'll get is the cool down, and we'll tell you about that with the main forecast coming up.
Quite a cool down too.
Nice little cool down coming in. Yeah, maybe some of us not out of the 50s tomorrow.
Wow.
How about that?
Goodness. All right, Miller, thanks so much.
You got it.
Okay, a Montana teenager is fighting for mental health awareness, making it a life mission to help prevent suicides. Q2's Alina Howder tells us why this cause is so personal.
One Big Timber teen is making it her mission to raise mental health awareness with her organization, Battle Scar. It's a cause that's near and dear to her heart, and this Sunday she's in Billings participating in the Yellowstone Valley Suicide Prevention Walk.
Please raise your blue beads. Not many teens would spend their birthday walking for suicide prevention, but for 17-year-old Sam Rooney, it's a cause that means the world to her.
When I was 9, my dad committed suicide, and that hit me really hard, and I went through severe depression and anxiety, and it put me in a really bad situation.
When she was 13, Sam decided to channel that anxiety and depression into Battle Scar Suicide Awareness, an organization that helps others struggling with mental health issues.
I started just handing out pamphlets and giving people information, and then it turned into doing resin crafts and going to craft fairs and raising money.
She made her first donation of $1,000 to Hope Community Center in Oklahoma City, where she was living before she moved to Montana last year. And now she's working to better her community in Big Timber.
I just hosted my first carnival that we raised about $950 for them, and we're still getting donations for them.
Sam will be donating over $1,000 to the Big Timber Mental Health Center. She wants to raise suicide and mental health awareness for others as she's experienced the toll it's taken on her family.
It's very important for me because when we lost my dad, my family had no idea about mental health and what the signs were and what was happening to him.
Sam says that helping others also allows her to cope with her own mental health struggles, and she hopes that one day she can do it for a living.
My future goal is to open a counseling center for teens and young students.
And for now, she wishes to inspire those who are struggling to get the help they need.
You don't have to be inside your own mind. Like, you can go and get help. And if they want to come to me, I'm more than willing to help someone.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Alina. 1 million Puerto Rico residents are waking up without power this morning as Hurricane Fiona leaves much of the island in ruins. CBS's Naomi Ruckham shows us the impact so far and what's next for the island.
Category 1 Hurricane Fiona slammed into Puerto Rico Sunday, triggering landslides and floods that ripped apart roads and homes. The storm washed away this bridge in a central mountain town, which was installed by the National Guard after Hurricane Maria hit in 2017. Hundreds have been evacuated or rescued, with muddy water sweeping away cars, pouring into buildings, and destroying an airport runway. Authorities have opened more than 100 shelters across the island. In the south, evacuees say they are worried about the houses they left behind. Forecasters now warn historic levels of rain could be on the way, up to 30 inches in eastern and southern Puerto Rico. At least 1 million customers were left without power into Monday, shutting down schools and government agencies across the island. At a Puerto Rican grocery store in Houston, employees worry about their family members back home.
They're going to struggle a lot, like things are not going to be the same in a while for them.
The damage is evoking painful memories for the island territory. Hurricane Fiona hit just 2 days before the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Maria, a Category 4 storm which was blamed for nearly 3,000 deaths. Puerto Rico's governor is calling the damage from Fiona catastrophic. President Biden has declared a state of emergency. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Hurricane Fiona struck on the anniversary of Hurricane Hugo, which hit Puerto Rico 33 years ago as a Category 3 storm. Officials say it could take days to restore power on the island. In Alaska, floodwaters are starting to recede after remnants of a typhoon battered the western side of the state. It's the worst storm in a half a century, leaving destruction along 1,000 miles of coastline. While damage is widespread, there's no reports of injuries or death. Happening right now, President Biden and at least 500 other leaders are in London for Queen Elizabeth's funeral procession. And that's a live look for you at the proceedings right now, in fact. Thousands even camping out on the streets of London overnight, hoping to secure a place to watch following the procession. The Queen will be laid to rest in a private ceremony at St. George's Chapel alongside her late husband, Prince Philip. All right, the midterm elections continue to dominate politics, and this election is becoming a difficult one to predict. That's because there's some unusual candidates and unprecedented issues that are facing voters. Reporter Joe St. George explains.
Hello, Milwaukee, or in my case, hello from Milwaukee. I'm not here to talk about this town's beer culture, although I wish I was. I'm here to talk and learn about politics here because regardless of whether or not you live in Wisconsin, This is a state you need to be paying attention to this midterm. First off, I need to give you a quick refresher about where things stand. Remember, this November is all about control of Congress. In the House, every seat is up. In the Senate, 35 seats are up. Right now, Democrats control both chambers. Republicans think they can flip both. You're going to hear a lot about flipping Senate seats over the next couple weeks. Republicans think these Senate seats, currently held by Democrats, can be flipped. States like Georgia, Arizona, New Hampshire, Nevada, and even Colorado are considered in play. Meanwhile, Democrats think seats held by Republicans in Pennsylvania, Ohio, here in Wisconsin, North Carolina, and even Florida could be flipped in their favor. Those are the states you're really going to want to watch this midterm. But I want to put a word on the screen real quick. Unusual. This election is getting hard to predict by many because of how unusual so many of the candidates are. Take, for instance, the Republican nominees for Senate in Arizona, Georgia, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. They've never held office before. A bit unusual. In Pennsylvania, the Republican candidate, Mehmet Oz, is a former national talk show host. In Georgia, the Republican candidate, Herschel Walker, is a former NFL running back. How big of a role does being a celebrity play? Health is also playing an unusually large role this election. In Pennsylvania, what's unusual isn't the fact the Democratic nominee for Senate loves campaigning in hoodies, it's his health. John Fetterman had a stroke in May and has held few campaign events since then. His campaign says he's fine, but will voters care? And then there is the unusual topics people are paying attention to. The economy and the current president always matter in midterms, but abortion hasn't played such a critical role for decades. A former president hasn't mattered in a midterm like this since Nixon in the 70s. Not to mention, it's a bit unusual how engaged voters are this election.
People tend not to be this engaged this early in midterms. It's unusual in that way, too.
I recently spoke with Michael Wagner with the Elections Center at the University of Wisconsin. He says young people here and in other key states are registered to vote in higher numbers than normal for a midterm.
Younger voters seem to be more engaged than is typical.
In Milwaukee, I'm Joe St. George.
Well, President Joe Biden is refusing to say if he'll run for re-election in 2024. In a recent interview with 60 Minutes, the president also said the FBI in their search for President Trump's or of his Florida home raised some concerns over sensitive data being compromised. He's calling the alleged removal of classified documents from the White House irresponsible.